Well, I start speaking when...
Я запустил эфир.
Okay, okay. Good afternoon or good evening, dear participants. We are waiting for about a minute or two with hope that everyone is getting ready. Everything is ready, but everyone probably not. And we're going to start at 5 p.m. as it was arranged. Please type plus in the YouTube chat if you can hear me and see me well. It would be nice if you do that. And type minus or something else if you do not. Well, it's not easy to type anything if you don't hear me and if you don't hear my instructions, right? So only pluses. Well, we start in 2 minutes, okay? Okay, I see that everything goes well. And at the very beginning, just a couple of tips for the comfortable watching our panel discussion today. First, it's better to close unnecessary tabs in your browser and messengers probably. So be sure that nothing distracts you. If you have any problems with video or the sound, please reload the page. Normally it helps. If this does not help, you might log in from another device, from a tablet or phone or whatever. The timetable, well, if this does not help either, you can type in the chat and our moderators will be happy to assist you. The timetable of the discussion you can see on the website, conference.skyteach.com. So if you don't want to listen to all of our speakers all the time, I don't think it's a good decision because every speech is crucially interesting. But anyway, you can choose from the list and join to the speaker you would like to listen to. Today, there are 6 brilliant speakers, and our general idea today is to crack the topic of international exams. Today, we focus on the TOEFL and TOEIC exams. We're going to dive into the psychometrics, washback effects, acting the exams, preparations, and we'll have a detailed comment from ETS Global, the company that provides valid assessment solutions, and they are licensed distributors or, I don't know, providers of these international exams. So they know everything about it. Don't miss the chance to ask your questions. A few words about time limits and other regulations. After the speech, the speaker answers questions. The speech is about 10 minutes. Other speakers and me, actually, we can ask the speaker orally. The other participants of the panel discussion can ask questions in the YouTube chat. My colleagues collect them, the questions, and give them to me, so I will be the voice of your request. Unfortunately, we are limited in time for answering questions, so some of them might have remained unanswered. That's a pity. But we will definitely put all of them together and our speakers will answer them after the event. Then the SkyTeach organizing committee will prepare an almanac with answers and send it to all registered, that's important, registered participants 2 weeks after the event, nearly. Well, who we are, I mean SkyTeach and ETS Global. Please, next slide. Yes, it works. So I think you know the Skyeng. Skyeng School is the biggest online language school in Eastern Europe. We have about 11,000 teachers and more than 100,000 students. And SkyTeach is a Skyeng School department whose primary goal, as written here, is to create a teacher-centric online community. So that's what we do. Next slide. What is ETS Global? What is ETS? It's Educational Training Service. And this is the company that develop and administer more than 50 million tests each year at more than 9,000 locations and 180 countries. That's impossible to imagine, I think. Well, 50 million tests a year. That's a huge number. And as well, and why do we do this? Why do we organize this event together? ETS Global is, they offer TOEIC and TOEFL and TFI tests, and they are probably worldwide biggest experts in the area. So it's very interesting to listen to the ideas of our colleagues. Please, next slide, if possible. Yes. 3 very, very well-known questions. You can read it here about materials. Yes, video recording and presentation will be sent first. Second, duration of the discussion, about 2 hours. And about the certificate, yes, you should fill out an application using the link in the YouTube. Click this, follow the instructions. It's very simple, and you will have your certificate after that. Okay, let's move further. Next slide, please. Yeah, now interesting thing. Let's talk about the bonus we have for you today. Today we have a contest among the attendees. 3 participants can win 3 months of premium subscription from my book e-library. What is my book? Is 270,000 books and more than 50,000 audiobooks, free access to the whole base of wisdom for 3 months. That's not bad, and you can win it. What you need to do, everything is very, very, very simple. Moderators will now send a link to participate in the contest, in the chat, in the YouTube chat. Click it, leave your full name and email, and that's it. After that, we will select the winners using a randomizer, random number generator. There is only one important rule. One person can leave only one application for participation. Let's be honest, okay? Okay. During the panel discussion, everyone will have the opportunity to have their data. I will let you know when we are closing the registration. The results will be revealed at the end of our discussion, of our broadcast. And after that, after we will say who are the winners, we will send the recording of the selection. Yes, we are very honest, and even the video of randomizing will send to you. Well, take part. I think it's worth doing. And the last thing before we normally start. In Sky, well, you know, probably at Skyeng we have different projects, and we have it a lot. And recently we have started a brand new Skyeng Talks project, and we will be happy to see you join. Skyeng Talks is a system of 15-minute communicative sessions on a particular topic of your student offered or the teacher. It's very nice for the students to have this speaking practice. The biggest part of the students are Russians, so they appreciate the communication with foreigners. So if you are a native English speaker or you use English in your everyday life or live abroad, you're welcome to join. I ask our moderators to share the link where you can find the details. And if you like it, you might join us. So let's get started. And we start with the detailed description. Next slide, please. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. I have already told about it. And next one. Yes. We start with a detailed description of what the TOEFL and TOEIC exams are. What's the difference first? For many of us, it's interesting, for me especially. Why and when do we need to take it? What are the tools to be prepared? It's an interesting question. So now I ask Daniela Murisan and Arun Perwitasari, our speakers from our partner company EDS Global, to share their experience with us. And for participants, do not forget to ask your questions in the chat. Don't miss this opportunity. Please, Arun, your turn to speak.
Thank you, Anton. Hi, everyone. How's it going? I'm Arum. I'm academic relations specialist from ATS Global. Mostly, I'm working with the TOEFL IBT test. And I'll talk first about the TOEFL IBT test, and then Daniela, my colleague from ATS Global, will also start with the TOEIC test later after my presentation. Okay, could you please give me next slide? Yeah. So some of you probably have already heard what TOEFL IBT test is, but today I'm going to give you really detailed information of what actually the test. So TOEFL IBT test stands for internet-based test of English as a foreign language, internet-based test. So this is like a computer-delivered test that measures English proficiency. So if you learn English, you probably are familiar with language skills such as reading, listening, speaking, and writing. So you really have to note that TOEFL IBT has already been used by 11,000 institutions in 150 countries. And this is very much academic English. So it's not only like English for day to day, but this is like academic English. And most of the time, this test is used to get admitted into college or universities where the courses are taught in English. Some of them are also, some people also use this for immigration, licensing, and scholarship. Next, please. So the test itself, it started in 1964 for the first TOEFL test. There are some evolutions in innovations during the time, and in 2005, the ETS starts with internet-based. So now for more than 50 years, the TOEFL program has pioneered innovations in language assessment. So can you imagine like how long is that already? Next. So why actually the TOEFL test? You know, why should I take TOEFL test? I got these questions a lot from students because they're so confused. So many language assessment out there, and students sometimes don't know how to choose which one among others. So you can go to the next slide, because this test provides with advantages. The first one, because this is like very superior academic English. So if you want to, let's imagine yourself, you want to study abroad, or you want to study with within a program with English as a medium instruction. Of course, you don't want to just sit down inside the classroom and then you don't understand at all what your lecturer are talking about, right? So this why this academic English is really demanding of a university when students wants to succeed in their study. Next. And also, if you use TOEFL test, this test helps you to get noticed. So because the test has already got a very good reputation, Anton already mentioned it also, and a very high standards. So the TOEFL scores actually help students to stand out, to hey, it's me, I've got a very good TOEFL test. And then yeah, most of the time admission office will just see you and rely on the test and trust that you can also graduate with a very high score. Next. When students prepare for the TOEFL test, this is like giving them like a real head start over their peers, because this is academic English. Way before they start the class, they have already prepared for the test, of course. And then this kind of preparation, of course, they have already prepared for the test, which is academic English, right? And then that makes them stand out among others. Those that makes them what is it? Can be seen by the university and also better than their peers. Next. There are no unfair TOEFL test center, I would say, because tests are not scored in the testing center. The tests are scored through a centralized scoring network. Now we are also working with artificial intelligence, like machine learning, and also multiple human raters. So it's impossible to create bias scoring in that sense. And probably some other tests they still do face-to-face interview, which most of the time or sometime that can create bias by a single rater. Next. So this table actually give you very valid statistical proof that 90% of students who have taken the TOEFL test, they got accepted in their first and second choice university, because the university are really sure that they are really like a very high quality students and they can get admitted easily. And 35 million more popular people have already taken the test, 35 million people, and got accepted by 11,000 universities and institutions over 150 countries, including English-speaking countries like Australia, Canada, New Zealand, the US, and the UK. So I would say 100% of these English-speaking countries, the universities accept the TOEFL test. Next. So what's new? So as I mentioned earlier, there are some innovations or enhancements that the TOEFL program has already given. So last year, August 1st, it starts with the shorten of the test. So the test used to be 3.5 hour. Since last year, August 1st, it's reduced by 30 minutes into 3 hours. However, the tests still have the same test format and questions type. And the reliability of the test is still high. And there is no change to the score scale. Next. So what actually ETS does during this Corona time? Because students came to us and they said like, we couldn't do the test because the testing centers are closed. So I would say the TOEFL IBT is the only test that provide a home test solution. So it's a spatial home edition where the students can take the test from home. They can use their own equipment and they are monitored online by a human proctor. So it's not like you're lost in translation and you don't know what to do because you've got an online human proctor with you. The test has the same content and format. It's on-screen experience. The difference is only that you use your own equipment, the same features, And also there will be instant scoring for reading and listening. So after you finish the task for reading and listening, you will see your score right away, and the same price and payment options, and the same scoring and score reports. Next. So this is the score will look like. My best score, this is also new. Usually they don't have it. So my best score, so if you see like on the left side, this is like the test date that you took the last time. My best score is actually the compilation of a very best score for each task administration that you take. For example, student has already taken 3 times, and then among 3 times, there will be different section that they are best at. So the best scores within each test administration will be put automatically in my best score part. So the score for the TOEFL test can be obtained 6 days after the test, and it's valid for 2 years. So regardless of the test administration date, you will still get my best score and the score from a single test date. Next. So to register for the test, it's easy. You can just go to this website, www.ets.org/myTOEFL, and then you can put all the information about your profile there and put your name, the same name with the passport that you have. Okay, next. How to prepare? These questions, like students came to me and asked these questions a lot. Can you go next? But I think I really love about the test is that they it provides very so much opportunities for students to prepare. So this is the first one. It's interesting because this is free. And if you could see, we highlight there that the enrollment starts in September 21st. It just started. And then you still have time to catch. So this is like massive online course, the MOOC for the TOEFL test preparation. So you will get some tips and tricks to do the test. And then you can also get sample questions from the past tests and quizzes. So this is like a free self-paced course. I do also apply myself, and I can prove that this is really useful for students. So if you think you cannot do that now, you can also do that tomorrow, because this is like based on your time. So that's why it's free self-paced course. So you will also receive a skilled score range for speaking and writing practice questions. Next. And this is free TOEFL prep. They're all free here. If you are confused how to do it, you can go to ETS website and find the search there, and then you can click this one, it will appear. So TOEFL IBT free practice test, for example, this is like a full test with 4 sections and the real past test questions. The idea is actually to make you familiar with the test format and the question types. So the first time I did my the test TOEFL IBT, because I was teaching like for almost 15 years, but at that time I was like 7 years teaching. But I said like, yeah, I don't want to prepare for that. But I don't think that's really a smart idea. So it's better to get familiar with the test first, the question and the format, so you are ready to do the test. So this free practice test number 1 here also view the correct answers for the reading and listening section, and also give sample speaking responses and writing responses. Okay. The second one, the practice test here, this provides free sets of TOEFL IBT test questions. Again, this is for free, and it's grouped by test section, and it's in PDF format. And there's also like a test prep planner. So some students, they are going to take the test for the first time, and then they don't know how to start. And I feel you, I got you. And then this TOEFL test prep planner is actually like 8-week preparation plans. So you can start the first week, what should you do? And also the tips and activities within each week. And also how to build each of the 4 skills. And also like we have official test prep on the go. This is here. If you could see on the very right side here, this is like an apps where you can find it in the App Store and Google Play. This is also for free. You can download it. This is like you can get a sample of questions from all the 4 skills. So if you're on the train, for example, you want to see how actually the reading passages look like in TOEFL, then you can also check it there, because you can download it from your phone. Okay, next. This is like books, like the official guide to TOEFL test. You can also get a test prep handbook from ETS, and also some of the books provide DVD rooms and also complete online practice tests. So you probably need to pay on these like little bucks there, and then yeah, and then you free to go. You can also use all the official prep there. Okay, next. Oh, this is TOEFL practice online. This is like a simulation of the TOEFL IBT test. So you do the test. You said like, hey, I did already the free 8 weeks planner, and I want to try the test before I do the real test. So you can take this one. This is like a simulation. You do all the skills, and you can get the feedback. I think 24 hours after the test. So you could check, you know, which one you need to improve before the real test you're doing. This includes a complete test, half test, and speaking test too. Okay. And next, this is further resources. You can go to TOEFL Go Anywhere website. This website provides loads of information there. For example, if you want to go to study in the UK or in the US and you don't know how the TOEFL score that they need, and you can check on that website because we provide that you just need to put the name of the university and you can see the TOEFL score that you need to get into that university. We also have Facebook, Instagram, and the one thing that I need to emphasize here, go to our YouTube channel. We have TOEFL TV there. You could see here on the picture here, we've got so many tips and strategies which you can check yourself if you think you need to improve your English, not only to improve the score in TOEFL, but also in English in general. You can also check it here. And also there is also a video series inside the TOEFL test, which also give the clue or tips and strategies for the TOEFL test. Okay, if you want to get updates, go to this website, the last one, ets.org TOEFL/email, or scan this barcode, and then you can get some updates from us. I think that's all from my side, right? Is that the last one? Next? Yeah, I think that's all from my side. I hand the time to Daniela. Thanks, everyone.
Probably first we'll ask questions from the chat, or
sure thing.
Yeah, our speakers have questions. Do you? Dmitry doesn't. Natalia, Alessia doesn't. Iliana? No? Yana? No? Okay. So 3 questions from the YouTube chat. The first one, if I've taken TOEFL IBT once several years ago, should I practice with the tutor or I can prepare on my own? It depends on person, of course, but I'd like to get some opinions.
Okay, I think I will answer here. I mentioned already, like, can I go back to the previous slides where I say, go on again? Yes. Next. Yes. So you can check here the TOEFL IBT test prep planner. Of course, that really depends on the person, you know, I agree with you. But I think you can follow this one by one steps, and then following that, I think within 2 weeks, 2 months, you can get back to your track, you know, you can gain again. I want to emphasize, sometimes students, after they didn't do the test for several years, they just don't know, you know, they don't know how to start again, or they don't know what score do they get at that time again. So better use all the practice tests here before you do the test, so that you are confident enough to do the test. You know what I mean? So start with the test prep planner here, so that you can go on each week and then find the tips and tricks there, and then do all the free practice tests here one by one, and then until you are good to go. I think that's my answer.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. The second question is it okay to use preparation materials dated 2018 or 2019?
I think both are okay. They are taken from our previous test too.
Okay, short, short answer.
Yeah.
And the last one, if I'm a teacher willing to prepare my students for TOEFL, do I need to take the test myself?
Oh, that's really a nice answer, because we actually like give also a proper task. This is like a training, professional training for teachers who wants to prepare for their students to be able, like who wants to teach their students TOEFL test. So I don't think, yeah, it's really good if you take the TOEFL test too, but I think the professional training that we offer really rely on the rubrics or the what is it, the criteria of the test itself. So it's more going deep into the content of the test, so that the teacher also could know what is it, how should they prepare for the test. So if the teacher, I don't know, maybe, yeah, if the, I don't know, the one who asked this are like, you are interested in gaining the proper IBT what is it, training from us, you can also contact us, and then yeah, us, probably you can also tell your colleague, yeah, your teachers, colleagues, and then yeah, we can also provide free proper trainings for you, so that you can also prepare your students to take the test. Yeah.
Perfect. I told to not miss the opportunity, so I was right. Now, thank you very much, Arun. Very informative message. And
My pleasure.
now we're going to listen to Daniela about the TOEIC program.
Thank you very much, Anton. So the test of English for international communication is basically the English language assessment for the working environment. So we're moving from the academic environment to the world of work, of business, etc. So if you go to the next slide, you'll see some basics about the test. Present all over the world. We've been delivering this test for 40 years. We're assessing 4 language skills. It's in many countries, and we provide accurate, reliable, fair scores. So I just highlighted the main difference between the two. If you're looking to study or go to university, seek admission, you'll go for the TOEFL test. If you're looking to get employed, get a job, get recruited, then you're looking at the TOEIC program. So next slide. Here are some examples of industries where the TOEIC tests are commonly found. We're looking at consumer electronics, oil and gas, airline companies, pharma, so the big pharmas, computer hardware, banking, and others. So you can see it's basically the world of international companies and organizations in many, many sectors. Next slide. Yeah, so this is a very broad and general presentation of the test because our time is very short today. Otherwise, we could talk in more detail. So we mentioned that it's worldwide and standardized. So you can take this test anywhere in the world. You would find what we call a public test center. You look for a date, and you can get the certificates and the score reports and the test. We can assess 4 skills. So listening and reading are usually grouped together. It's possible to do them on paper, if you prefer, but also on the computer. So companies, organizations usually deliver the computer-based assessments because they have the facilities, but also some language institutes or academic institutions, they also do the computer-based test. On the other hand, speaking and writing as productive skills, whereas we have to produce information to speak and to write, are always done digitally on the computer. So from the very beginning, we've introduced these speaking and writing tests on the computer. We found through our research that test takers are more comfortable rather than having a human assessor assess their speaking and writing skills, or having another participant that they have to talk to. So there's a lot of emotion that may intervene. So our speaking and writing tests are done on the computer. They're not pass or fail tests. So sometimes we get the question, what is my minimum score, or what should I score? They show the level of English language proficiency that you have at that moment in time. And then it's up to institutions to determine what is the minimum level of English that they require. For example, in some European countries, such as France, business schools or engineering schools establish what we call a minimum cut score. So they say we need a minimum of B2 level, that's upper intermediate level of English, to enter or to graduate from this institute. So the CFRs are A1 to C1. We go to the next slide. Yes, so when our colleagues and partners at Sky Teach started discussing with us about this conference, I really like the question that they asked us. So why should we take the ETS assessment? Why should I take a TOEIC test? And I just wanted to share with you my personal story. So I'm basically Romanian. I live in Berlin, Germany. My office of reference is Amsterdam, and my manager is in Paris. So how did I get here? Basically, at a quite early stage, I attended a bilingual school in education, and at a certain point in time, when I was about 18, we had a chance for this bilingual project to take international standardized high-level English language assessments. So we started preparing. I took one of those tests. I was in the mindset. We developed the English language competencies. So basically, with that international language assessment, I then decided to do an exchange program at the university. I decided to travel to other countries and get a job as a student. Afterwards, I lived in Scotland, the UK, where I worked. I moved to Italy, I moved to the Netherlands, etc. So having a good level of English with the proof in hand that you are, let's say, competent in terms of communication was a valuable instrument. So my message to you today as teachers and students is similar to what we are saying for TOEFL. If you need to stand out the competition, you need to be able to prove that you have high level of English language proficiency. And we know that good and high level of English proficiency is related to better career prospects, better pay in your salary, better international opportunities. Next slide. So you can prove that you're ready for the international global job market because these certificates are recognized all over the world. Next slide. And of course, you have better career prospects because you're better able to express yourself, to write, to communicate, etc. So let's say English language proficiency is at the core of communication, and communication is rated as one of the top level competencies required in international business today. So if you go on to the next slide, you'll see some examples of organizations that use our test. Very popular in Asia, Japan, Korea, Taiwan, Vietnam. The test was actually built because the Japanese Ministry of Labor required a tool to measure the Japanese, let's say, employees' level of English. And so this is how it was born 40 years ago. And from then onwards, it's spread all over the world. In Poland, it's used by Michelin. In France, by Air France, École de Guerre, and in, let's say, many other countries. Next slide. So how about preparation? Preparation, we can talk about, let's say, many suggestions and many resources. So I selected just a few today, and I'll try to be brief because I think, Anton, time is pressuring. So it's helpful to help your students and yourself as well know the test well. How long does it take? 2 hours for listening and reading. How many questions do I have? What is the length? What types of questions? So our tests are multiple choice. So if the learners are used or they're fluent in assessment knowledge, so to say, it's easier for them to digest or react or perform because they don't have to think about it. It's automated. If it's entirely new, they will need more time. So it's good for them to know all the details. It's good for them to be surrounded by English outside and inside the classroom. Many students today learn a lot outside of the classroom. It's good to, and key actually, develop English language skills. We don't always focus on the tips and tricks because these are proficiency tests. So we assess proficiency. We don't assess their skills in being able to, let's say, read a question first and the answers afterwards, or read the answers first and read the question before. We don't assess those skills. We assess listening for detail, listening for main ideas, the ability to connect information, making inferences, vocabulary, grammar. That's what we assess. So the way to improve your results is to improve your English fundamentally. So we have to pass on this message to our teachers and our students. Next slide, please. Yes, and then of course you have lots of resources that you can refer to. This is an example, an examining handbook you can find on our website. It has a lot about the test, samples, etc. Next slide is number 5. This is a sample test you can download and you can take. It has the answers. Next one. You can see this is a paid resource we call the TOEIC Official Learning and Preparation course. Highly recommended because it has 1,000 practice test questions and they're official. You can imagine how many resources there are online, offline for our assessments. We always encourage teachers and test takers to go to the official resources because those are the ones created by the makers of the test. So everything else is sort of an approximation. Books as well, if you go to the next slide. And I think this is a free practice test that you can use with your students or as a student. It'll give you a CFR level, so go for it, available for free. And next one, last, let's say, suggestions, and I think we'll share these presentations with you. I did add some tips for success because we always have this question, and these are typical and they're transversal across assessments. So read the answers. For reading, you can balance by choosing, let's say, the parts that you know that are more difficult. Make sure you check answers, be calm. One of the major factors is stress. We know there's a lot of anxiety related to test taking, so being in good physical, psychological shape is important, right? It may have an impact on your results. Don't get frustrated. Focus on what you need to do. Don't think about something else. And hopefully, fingers crossed, everything will go well. So I think this was my last slide. Perhaps one last website I can recommend if you're interested in English for the workplace, TOEICglobal.com. So this gives you, again, also language-related resources, so vocabulary, case studies, etc., etc. So I think that was my part. I hope I managed to keep the time.
Thank you very much. Yes, you're in time like a god. Dear speakers, do you have questions to Daniela? Probably. No, again. Okay, while our participants are more curious, you know. The first question for you from our YouTube chat. Should I prepare myself to pass the exam? Is it difficult to pass?
Yes, it's very difficult. I'm joking. Yeah, we recommend that you take some time to prepare, as we said, in terms of knowing about the test. Secondly, trying to develop your assessed English language skills. So when you will read about the test, you will see what we assess. And if you prepare on the skills that we assess, then you're going to be more proficient. And what we assess is what is needed for proficiency. Okay, so definitely take some time to prepare. Depending on your target, I would say a minimum of 3 months. If you plan or you have higher aims, a minimum of 6 months. So I would say for the proficiency, for the psychological part, definitely prepare.
Okay, thank you very much. And the second question, I think it's interesting for you. How can we enroll into the professional training program for teachers?
For teachers. So we run the TOEIC Propel teacher training workshops. These are face-to-face, and in some countries we open registrations, so we organize them and you can register through our offices. So this is in France, for example, where the test is very popular. In other countries, we simply offer an email address where you email us and you tell us that you're interested and we come to your institution. So if you have a university or a school where you know that your teachers, or you would like your teachers to get trained, we can come and deliver the training. We're working on moving this teacher training to the online world. However, let's say we had many priorities this year, and as Arum highlighted, we have the TOEFL test delivered remotely. For the TOEIC as well, we worked on delivering it remotely. So we haven't been able in 6 months to move everything online. But we're hoping in the future as well for the TOEIC to be able to provide some online teacher training.
Okay, I think, yeah, this might be very interesting, especially if we have tickets to France. Much better. And the last very specific question, but anyway, I wonder if you have an idea how large is the proportion of Spanish-speaking test takers compared to other main groups?
We have a report that I can share with Anton, and then he can share it back during the chat, where we list some information about the countries of origin of our test takers. So I think that type of specific information can be found in that particular report. And it also lists how good English competency is per country. So that's also something that you can look at and see how good are Spanish speakers in comparison to other countries. So I'll share this link and you can look for this detail.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah. Well, I think we have some more questions, but at least 6. So probably we'll put it in the almanac and answer them in written form. Okay, thank you very much, Danielle and Arum. It was very, very interesting, and I hope that more people in Russia and in other countries will be ready and able, and they will be able to pass the TOEIC or TOEFL exam. Well, I have now another question. We see what we have to do to be prepared. But what if we're, well, let's say far enough from the goal? How do we plan our long-term activities, both for ourselves or for our students? Well, if it's not a sprint, if it's a long distance? That's an interesting question. And I would like to introduce, with pleasure, our next speaker. It is Jana Scher, a senior methodologist at Skyeng Premium Products and chief methodologist of Skyeng Festivals. It was a huge, actually the biggest offline and online event in the before coronavirus epoch. Jana, please. Everyone is waiting for you.
Okay, so hi, dear colleagues. I hope that you can see me and hear me. Thanks a lot for coming here. And it's a great pleasure to take part in this panel discussion with brilliant speakers. Today, I'm going to talk about acing the international exam preparation like a marathon runner. I can say that exam preparation is really my thing. So I think I love it most of all my teaching practices. And right now I have 67 students who have successfully passed different kinds of international exams. So TOEFL, IELTS, so CAE, some kids exam, and GRE, so GMAT and others. And I really like it because it gives you a special feeling, and I think that it triggers the student to know a bit more about themselves. So first of all, about this idea, marathon and exam preparation. So what's the connection? So is it just a coincidence that you can find a lot of things in between, or so there is some reason behind it? So let's get to the next slide, please. I do believe that the process of training and running of marathon, as well as preparation for the exams, is something that can give you a life enriching experience. And these processes are not that different. So basically, you start small and increase slowly, working your way up to the full event. And of course, at first, the whole idea of writing 26.2 miles or sitting a 4 hours long exam, hello to TOEFL, yeah, so might seem insane, but then you just get there and you have to do this. And let's look at some ideas in comparison. So both marathon exams are time limited. So finally, they're going to be over, and you know this. And the next part is the stamina. You can find lots of information about stamina on the resources like in a men's health, women's health, sport and fitness site. Yeah, so they're all about how to boost your endurance and stamina. And in fact, you can be the great short distance runner, maybe an Olympic one. But if you don't have stamina, it means that you won't be the marathon runner. We talk there about continued energy. So you don't have to stop, and this is what you have to teach your students to do. So you can't stop there. You have to proceed to the end. Next, that's about the strategies. Strategies are really important both for a marathon and the exam preparation. I like to call them either tips or traps, and one more, the shortcuts. So you have to know your way out of the questions and sections and so on. You have to find some inner ways of building your stamina up. Next is rating. So usually you don't want to be the last in the marathon, or you try to compete against yourself and your score. With exam, it's much less vague. Yeah, you have the score, and it is interpreted. Either you go and reach your goal, or so you have to sit the exam once again. And the goal-oriented parts there. The marathon can be the goal, that's for sure. But the exams, in like 85% of cases, they are nothing more than a doorway to the end goal, getting to university, or maybe landing a job that you want. Can I go to next slide, please? Usually we divide the preparation with my students into 3 stages. First one, that's learning the format. And if we talk about marathon, yeah, so you give yourself some time. You need to go from proverbial point A to point B. So that's the same about exam preparation. And you have to know all the stages, all the surface, understand the specifics of the exam, the question types, the criteria. You have to know all about this in as many details as possible. Then the second part, that's skills and strategies. And basically, we try to answer 2 questions: how to do something, and how to do this in a more effective way. And this is where the shortcuts are necessary. Next part, that's the mock test. And somewhere in the world of marathon, you reach a point when you're ready to go to your first race. So you're aware of all the challenges, you feel capable. And this is where you have to try and see what the challenges are ahead. And sticking with the marathon analogy, yeah, how far can you go at a steady pace before giving out? That's why you have to provide as many mock tests for your students as possible. And you need to shift the boundaries to push your students beyond the limits and establish new ones in the process. Like, okay, so this time you achieve the score 26 out of 30, yeah? So let us make this time 27 or 28. So let's analyze the mistakes and make this better. And yeah, we definitely talk about adding some new skills and strategies and ideas to this tool bag. Let us go to the next slide, please. That's the key idea that I want to show to you, and it's really hard to comprehend for teachers and for students alike, is that students are going to fail, and that they're presupposed to fail, and they better fail on the mock tests. And that's the way of building stamina. That's a way of changing and understanding what's wrong with this. And you have to be there to support like a sport trainer, like a real trainer. Let us get to the next slide, please. And right now I'd like to share with you the techniques for exam preparation that I use with my students. That's just some kind of a tool set for this. First of all, that's the progress map, the roadmap of what you're planning to do and what's your starting point, where you're going, what are the stages of it. Next, that's the progress curve. And that's an interesting thing, because you don't need to, it's not as complicated as it seems. You can create just a table with the results of your students, like each section results. And after this, with the use of magical PowerPoint or Google presentation, you can create something more visual, a graph or a diagram show. Look at this, we've been working with you for 2 or 3 months, and that's the progress we are making. You started with these points. There were fluctuations, but still you're really high on this. Next part is self-analysis. Without this, you won't go far away, so I won't even stop on this idea. You get that without the students' reflection, so that's impossible. Then timing is a king. You have to teach your students how to organize themselves so that clock don't make them nervous. Swimming in English. It's you need to provide to them the maximum exposure, so and stimulate them to do the same. Some problems that my students had during their mock tests or the real tests was that they were too afraid. So the listening started, they heard the English voice, and they were afraid immediately. And so that's why when they get used to listening, to reading, so searching in Google in English, to talking to Siri or Google Assistant in English, so it's all going to be really better. And full-length practice. So it's the way to ensure that you're on your way to your highest score. And the next slide, please. So that's the last point, some ideas for teachers, the psychology of preparation. A teacher who is working with exams is definitely not just a teacher. So you're more a coach and a mentor. You have to think about the micro feedback and your motivational phrases. It's not like, okay, so you're doing good, so this is going to be great, so no worries to this. These phrases mean nothing to students. You give particular tips, like try to do this, so that later you won't have trouble with this. Don't forget to write these words. Don't forget to remember, to repeat, to practice, to calm down, to breathe, and other small tips that will help students to concentrate more. And the idea that failure is acceptable should underline the whole preparation. That's why the mock test exists. And yeah, your students' mental health is at stake. You're responsible for your student. The way of planning and organizing and understanding. So for example, TOEFL has a great online test prep planner for students. So it's for 1 month. They can stretch it up if you want to. It's the way to deal with the chaos preparation, where you don't know what to take, the vocabulary, the grammar, the section preparation. And push carefully, because you're once again responsible for your students, and you can be either the killer or the motivator that will help them to grow. And finally, the key idea about the 3 R's connected with the marathon running and preparation for the exam. This is rest, recovery, and rewards. If you combine all of this, you achieve a great result with the students, and they will remember it like the brightest experience of their English preparation. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Perfect as usual. Dear speakers, maybe this time you have some questions to Jana.
I can ask a question if it's okay.
Thank you very much, Elisa. Thank you very much. Yes, please.
As a 3-time marathon runner, I have a question. So you get to a point when you run for a very long time, you get to a point when you actually don't want to run anymore and you want to give up and you think that it was a bad idea to start even. So I think people who take exams and tests, they sometimes feel the same way. So what would you recommend to a learner probably who wants to give up?
Oh, that's a great, perfect question. So that just go into the last slide about the stress, recovery, and rewards. Yeah. So after this pitfall, after this maybe mock test or the total loss of motivation, the teacher should come to some terms with the students and understand what's happening, that it's normal, that you're not the only one who feels the same. So there were students before who had just the same thing. So you can talk about some analogy from sport, like the marathon and so on, and remind yourself of the end goal, that's one thing, or of the beauty of what you've done already. So give some time to recover, maybe just go away from the track of preparing for the exams for 1 or 2 days and watch something together. So work with some other English peers, so work with the content so that students will relax a bit. And the reward, so that's like a small reward, and the feedback, like you've done so much already, so there is more to come.
Thank you, Jana.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah, and we have a question from very similar to Alessa's one, but anyway, ain't the students get frustrated? And where is the boundary, where is the frontier of their frustration line?
Yeah, so thank you for the great question. I think this person really knows about the pitfalls. The question is quite similar. Yeah, so the frustration can hit us when we don't expect it at all. We know as teachers that it can hit us even when we prepare a student. Sometimes we feel that there is no progress, so we don't know what to do next. Yeah, and the recipe will be still the same, about giving some type of rest, doing something in English that won't be as stressful as before, and then slowly coming back to the pace so that you increase it and start your marathon preparation once again.
Okay, thank you very much. So it was Jana, the senior methodologist at Skype Premium Products, and you know why she's a senior methodologist now. Well, a message. There is a final call for the contest registration. We hope that everyone has already filled the form. Well, we talked about the price, the prizes. 3 months premium subscription from my book. I ask our moderators to send a link again in the YouTube chat. So you have the last chance to take part in this contest and win a good prize. Okay, we have 10 minutes, okay? And in 10 minutes, we're going to close the registration. Well, does the test, no, let's talk about this one. I think you have heard the expression like that. Who the hell you are to test me? I've heard. And I thought, what is behind the test? Why do we trust them? Why will my test, if I create it, be much worse than TOEFL? Are there any big theories in the discipline we call testology? And do we notice that the procedure of language test has drastically changed? Now I have a privilege to introduce our next speaker, Dmitry Avakumov from HSE, a trendsetter in the area of psychometrics and e-learning. Dmitry, please.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Anton, thank you so much for inviting me for such an interesting panel. I have a short remark. This is like Russian tradition to call like test development as testology, but the world, like the general world tradition, it called psychometrics. So, and today we will talk about psychometrics. My name is Dmitry Abakumov. I hold a doctoral degree in psychometrics and methodology of educational sciences from KU Leuven, Belgium. And currently I am a leading computational educational scientist at Higher School of Economics, HEC University in Moscow. And my talk today is about assessments. Next slide, please. So the biggest challenge of assessments is that we are dealing with unobservable phenomena. So knowledge and skills are hidden from our direct observation. I mean, it is impossible to use kind of a ruler directly to get the measure. Next slide, please. So my talk today is on introduction to the assessment development. And my first message is that to measure knowledge or skills, we need two components. So the first component is the indicators. You already know that we deal with unobservable phenomena. Thus, indicators are standardized challenges that promote a student to show his or her knowledge or skill. For instance, the knowledge of English is an unobservable phenomenon. And to measure it, we need, for example, tests or essays that serve as indicators of students' knowledge. Specifically, we can use the correctness and speed of students' responses, his or her attempts, as proxies of his or her knowledge. And the second and critical component is statistical models, which serve to connect these indicators to an unobservable phenomena. But we have no time today to talk about statistical models a lot. So that is like, that's all about statistics for today. Next slide, please. And there is a scientific discipline called psychometrics. And I like this, idea of Professor Danny Borsboom from the University of Amsterdam, who defines psychometrics as a scientific discipline concerned with the construction of assessment tools and formalized models that may serve to connect observable phenomena to theoretical attributes. So to make it clear, theoretical attributes is unobservable phenomena, for instance, knowledge, skills, competency, and so on. And observable phenomena are our indicators. Next part of this slide, please. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, and the science of assessments has a long history. So I think this year we celebrated 130 years of the history, which started with the dissertation of American psychologist James McKim-Cattell on measurement of intelligence. So he was first who proposed to measure this unobservable phenomena like intelligence using test items. And next part of this slide, please. And in 1935, a scientific method of measurement has been established in psychology and education with the article in the Science, one of two most renowned journals like Nature and Science. And this article from Louis Thurstone about psychology as quantitative rational science. And from this time, we started to use a scientific method, which comes from physics and solid sciences in our kind of soft sciences like social sciences, psychology, education. Next slide, please. And during 1 century of assessment history, all the components and indicators and all the components of this system, like indicators and statistical models, have changed drastically. For instance, we had quite boring multiple choice questions 60 or 70 years ago, which are limited in what we can measure using them. For instance, you cannot use like the audio player within this paper and pencil multiple choice test to understand how learner pronounce with or without mistakes some English or other words in another language. And next part of this slide, please. But now we have quite immersive interactive simulations as indicators, in which a student does not respond questions, rather he or she behaves as usual, solving real-life tasks connected to the unobservable phenomena we need to measure. For instance, he or she can just talk with a robot in English, and this robot asks him or her different questions, tricky questions, and these are indicators of his or her knowledge or proficiency. Next slide, please. So the assessments as tools have been changed too. For instance, 100 years ago, we had expert-based assessment, when one expert talked to his or her students and just make his or her judgment about this student. And these quite biased conclusions, because, for instance, expert can have his personal like severity or leniency, or another kinds of like personal based biases. After that, next part of this slide, please. We developed, the science of psychometrics developed paper and pencil tests. So we do not use anymore the expert, but we use high level and very good items as indicators, which can be unbiased indicators of what we want to measure. But now, next part of this slide, please. We have this computerized adaptive testing, so in which specific computer program select from the big item bank specific items which are appropriate and optimal for this learner or for this student, and these items do not make these students frustrated because they have optimal difficulty for these students, and also they do not make the student boring because the difficulty is optimal, not too difficult and not too easy for him or for her. And computerized adaptive assessments are significantly shorter than regular tests, with the same or even higher level of validity and measurement specificity. Next slide, please. So, and finally, statistical models also have been changed a lot during this 1 century, 30 years. For instance, the Francis Edgeworth, he was a British economist and statistician. So he provided in 1888 the idea what is the real measure, a valid measure of students' proficiency. So in his talk at the conference, he told that it is intelligible to speak of the mean judgment of competent critics as the true judgment, and deviations from this mean are errors. So, and we lived with this, I think, until 1950, when the psychometric science developed new theory, which called item response theory, with quite comprehensive and complex statistical models. And now, the next part of this slide, we have extremely complex and comprehensive statistical models. For instance, here you can see the network of items, which means that each item in the test connected to other items. And for instance, we can predict with high level of accuracy if the learner has correct response on one specific item, what will be his or her predicted correctness on other items. And this network psychometrics, which was proposed by Dutch scientists, Sascha Epskam, Günther Maris, and I forgot names, but I know the surnames, Waldorp and Danny Borsboom, in 2018. So we can use this model in adaptive learning. For instance, our student had mistake in specific item. We know that he or she probably, with high level of probability, will have mistakes in item 2, 3, and for instance 7, and we can provide him or her with specific feedback, which will help him or her to succeed with these tasks. And of course, in assessments, not only in adaptive learning, but also in adaptive assessments, this network psychometrics works very well. So that's all for today about the introduction to assessment development. All of the above serve for making fair assessments, valid measurement, and evidence-based decisions. And there is an exciting way ahead in our science. And that's all. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dmitry. It was very interesting and a little bit complicated for many of us, I believe. Do our speakers have questions to Dmitry? I think it was really, really, really interesting. And well, I have. Okay. 2 years ago, 1 year ago, last year, yes, I read an article with the title "Assessing Language Proficiency from Eye Movement in Reading." The idea was that the guys from MIT analyzed the traces of eye movements during reading. So they gave the text in foreign language to a reader, and they gave him the text in Russian, in native language. And then they compared the traces of eye movements and found out that it differs, and they could define the language level after their comparison. So my question is, will it be possible to test language competence, for example, somehow like this? I mean, indirectly. And are there any interesting ideas and cases in the world of psychometrics? Sorry for the tautology.
Okay, thank you so much for this question. It is quite complex question, and I would like to make the balanced response on it. So of course there are a lot of interesting developments in what can be a good predictor of knowledge in English or in other disciplines. For instance, it can be speed of response. For instance, if we have a set of very easy intelligence items, they will not be a good predictor, or they will not be a good indicator of learner's intelligence, but the speed of his or her response will be. But we have to be very, very, very careful on this scientific procedures we have to make before applying these tools in real life. Which scientific parts and things we have to do? First of all, this is a validation study. We have to establish a strong statistical connection between this indicator and real learners' proficiency in English. And of course, these procedures should be made on very big sample from different countries for students with different ages, backgrounds, and so on. And only if so it works well, we can use some items as just a small part, in more complex assessment. For instance, we can use this, we can use it like as a predictor of learners' proficiency. For instance, to tune the further test to this learner. For instance, learner sees the text, we can use his eye movements and we can see, okay, these eye movements preferably work like a good indicator of for learners with like average proficiency. And then we start asking these students with like real items, like in English, with average level of difficulty. And if it works for this learner, we just make this. We can make this test shorter than without than if this test is without this pre-knowledge measurement procedure. So this is my response.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, well, I think nearly the same, but yeah, it's great to know that your opinion is close to mine. And our participants ask you to share your articles in well, I'll quote. Works at psychometric study with regard to behavior of test takers, something like that. If you have, or any articles you have in English to read, because the topic is quite complicated and many people need me.
Yeah, I do. Thank you so much for this question. I do have at least one article, but it is not in language proficiency, but it is in learners' behavior in massive open online courses. So, and in this paper, me and my colleagues in Belgium, we show that how to distinguish between learners who use attempts just to like tick boxing and find this correct response just like by random iteration, and who uses attempts in terms like as a learning tool. And we found like very interesting results in this paper. So we can now use this statistical procedure just to understand better which strategies our learners use in massive online courses. And you can find full texts in my website, www.abakumov.com. And open text, you're welcome.
Perfect, great. Well, thank you very much again, and we are moving further. And the next question we're going to discuss is like that. Does the test have, I mean, any test, have, well, secondary effects? Well, yes, it does. And it could be, well, we presume it could be positive or negative, unfortunately. First, I heard about so-called washback effect 2 years ago, but still not yet competent in this area. But we are smart enough to be lucky, and we invited Alessia to tell us about this underrated thing. The impact of a test on teaching and learning. Well, please, Alessia. Alessia actually is a senior methodologist at Skyeng. Please, we want to know more about it.
Good evening, dear colleagues. Thank you for inviting me. It's really nice to be here, and I really appreciate you coming here as well. So today, I'm going to tell you quickly about washback and testing, why it's important and what you can do actually to make it a little bit better than it seems to be. So we will start with a simple example. Next slide. You probably can recognize here a driving test, more specifically road test, where you actually have to drive around the city and show that you're capable of driving a car. And if I asked you, how would lessons look like in order to prepare for this test, you would probably tell me that in the lessons, you actually have to drive the car with your instructor, with your teacher, and get feedback and learn different things that you can do and develop your driving skills. And if I asked you, can you just read a book and discuss how to drive without actually driving, you would say that no, it's not possible to pass the test without actually taking driving lessons. And then we will move on to the next example. Next slide. So I will show you this test, this exam. You can see that this is a translation exam. And if I asked you how lessons would look like if you knew that this kind of exam would be the end of course exam, probably again you would tell me that the most direct way to get ready for this exam would be to actually to translate texts in your classroom or to do text analysis. And again, you would be right. And then we get the next example. Next slide. And if you saw this test, which is to speak for 45 minutes about some topic, and if I asked you how would lessons look like to make sure that you actually pass this test, again, you would tell me that they probably would be more focused on speaking, and teacher and learners would really do a lot of practice, speaking practice during these lessons. So as you can see, there are tons of different tests and test formats. They are designed by different people. They are designed for different purposes. They have different assessment criteria. They are assessed differently. They can be assessed by people or they can be assessed by computers. And it doesn't matter, actually, tests can be different. We're not going to judge whether tests can be good or bad, but they can actually affect what is going on in the classroom. And this sort of effect is called washback effect. The next slide. So, and washback is something, not something, it's the way the test can actually affect what is going on in your classroom. It affects what and how you teach and what and how learners learn. So, and it's important also to remember that washback effect is usually noticeable when the exams or tests are high stake, meaning that they are very relevant for teachers and learners. And usually when tests are not very important and not very relevant, washback effect is not so noticeable, so it kind of doesn't affect classroom very much. Traditionally, there are two types of washback. Next slide. So negative and positive, as any other effect actually, and whether the test is going to have negative or positive effect is going to depend on the context. So one test can be both negative and can have both negative and positive effect. As an example, next slide, let's go back to this exam, translation exam. So for example, if the purpose of your course or the learner goals are to get ready to communicate in the real world, to be able to speak, to be able to collaborate with colleagues, for example, or with university classmates, I don't know. So probably this test would have a very negative effect on the classroom because the classroom time would be dedicated to a lot of translation and a lot of text analysis. And but if you actually take the situation, so this test was taken from the University of Wisconsin, from the Department of Translation and Interpreting Studies, so where people are getting ready for becoming professional translators. So where they actually have to be able to effectively translate texts with very high quality. So as you can see, this exam would probably have a very positive effect on the way teachers teach and learners learn, and on the achievement of the overall studying goals. So, and there are usually three types of areas that washback or tests affect. Next slide. These are learners, course or course materials, and teachers. Next slide. So learners are usually affected, I can't say most, but okay, they're affected a lot. So the way the test is designed is going to tell the learners what kind of strategies to use, how much time they're going to spend on test preparation, how intensively they're going to learn. And for example, next slide. Yes. Are they motivated actually to take this test? Is it relevant enough for them? Because when it's relevant to their own personal goals, they're more motivated to take it and to actually work towards good results. And when it's not relevant, they actually don't want to work very hard. Next slide. And then tests can affect the course itself. So, for example, if the test requires you to be able to read academic texts, so probably you will have lots of academic texts as materials of the course, and you would spend a lot of time working on them. Next slide. And then tests can affect also teachers and teacher behavior, meaning that teachers have to next slide, have to choose some teaching strategies. They're going to choose methodology. They're going also to influence what kind of materials are going to be used in the classroom. So as you can see, the area of effect of the test is very big. And maybe the question is, why is it so important actually to think about it? Well, then we go back to positive and negative washback. It's really important to remember that tests can have effect on the classroom in the way that every classroom has a purpose and has some learning outcomes that everybody strives to achieve. And when we know about the negative effect of the test, we can actually try to reduce it. And when we know about the positive potential effect of the test, we can enhance it. Next slide. So as Samuel Masick said, in order to accomplish positive washback, you don't have to look for the perfect test. You can actually just enhance test tasks and content and probably teaching, and you can actually affect the way the test is used in the classroom, because it seems to be very logical, just like, okay, so let's just find the perfect test, that's all, with the most positive washback there is. But actually it's not possible, because it's not possible to find the perfect test for your own context, and usually there is only one test for a variety of contexts. And then in most cases, learners and teachers do not choose tests. Tests are usually introduced without their ability to choose it. Next slide. So how can you ensure a positive washback if you're actually not at liberty to change, to choose a test? Next slide. So first of all, if you have this freedom to choose, and if you can choose a test, choose the test that the test most likely to link learner goals and sorry, I can't see the text. Learner goals and real life. I mean, the learner with the real life. So next slide. So there are lots of tests out there, and today I think it's just so easy to choose the test that would most likely reflect what learners need. And if you can do it, choose the one that would actually. Next slide. The second thing that you can do to enhance or to promote positive washback is to study everything there is about the test. I think every speaker today said that it's important to read everything there is about the test. So to read about, and actually I think, this is my personal opinion, I think a good test is when is the test that has some sort of information and description of its purpose, of the things and the skills and the knowledge that it attempts to test, how it's going to be assessed. And usually the information is out there on the websites or in some brochures. Next slide, for example. You can read about TOEFL on their website, what it tries to test, what kind of sections there are in the test, what kind of tasks, why it uses these tasks to assess these specific skills. Next slide. And it also has some descriptions and what is expected from the learner to do in order to achieve the highest score. So, and kind of the rule of thumb is that usually a teacher that is aware of what the test is like, what is behind the test, in the classroom of this teacher, washback tends to be more positive than negative. Next slide. And then the third thing, once you actually read everything about the test, you can choose, or you should choose, the techniques and methodologies that both help to do the test and to help, get the highest score and achieve your learner's goals. So it's really important not to forget why you're using this test and what exactly can help you to develop to achieve both. Next. And if you don't know what kind of techniques and methodologies to use, you can always use official preparation materials. Don't shy away from using them because, well, first of all, they can offer those techniques and methodologies that would probably help you most. And second of all, they're written by people who could be the test designers themselves, or who could be related to those, or who know the test designers who were who had anything to do with the test, or at least they work in the same institution that was responsible for the test release. And probably they do know a lot about the test, lots of intricacies that they share in this official preparation materials. So yeah, these are the 4 steps that you can make in order to enhance positive washback in your classroom. To sum up, washback is something, is some sort of effect that the test has on your classroom. It can be both negative and positive depending on your class purposes, and you can actually influence. I don't know if it's possible to say, you can affect the effect of the test on the classroom yourself by taking these 4 steps. Thank you. Next slide.
Thank you very much. That was much, well, now I know much more about washback effect now, so a year I needed to know about it. Okay, dear speakers, maybe you have some questions to Alyssa. Please, don't be shy. No. So our participants have, thank for them for that. How can, the question is, maybe it's, well, it's close to the topic, but not in the heart of it. How can a teacher esteem if the student is really ready for the test?
Can you repeat that, please?
How can a teacher esteem if the student is really ready for the test? How do you know if your student is ready?
Mm-hmm. I can't say, actually. It's a really difficult question for me to say. I think this is what Yana suggested. First of all, there are mock tests. You always, I think it's a great idea to try to do the test and to check how the student, how the student is doing. And I think there's a great webinar by Polina Kordik. Actually, you can take several mock tests, and doing statistical analysis, you can actually predict the possible outcome for the test result. You can Google like how to predict the exam score, Polina Kordik, and you can find this is a great webinar on how to predict whether your student is ready to take the test or not, actually.
Thank you very much. Yes, Polina is very, very, very interesting speaker as well, and a friend of us. And the question from Yana. Yana, could you please say it?
Yeah, of course. So the question is about the washback effect in general. So how can we be sure that it exists, and can it be practical? So can teachers use it? Should they be aware of it before they start the preparation, during the process of it?
We cannot be sure, because actually, if you show the next slide, there is even an article quite famous. I think it's quoted almost in every article on washback, and it says, does washback exist? Actually, there is a lot of dispute in the testing community as to whether washback really exists. So we cannot be sure, but the practical answer, I mean, for the teacher, I think would be just to make sure that whatever you are teaching is relevant to your student, and that's all. Whether it be the test result or the general course purposes, or I don't know, whatever the learner needs actually for their next, I don't know, for learning, for progress, for to exist in life. Yeah. I mean, many people try to, many researchers are still trying to measure whether washback exists. There are some people who prove that it does exist. There are some people who say that it doesn't exist, and a lot actually, a lot in these cases depends on the teachers themselves, because in some cases a test doesn't have any washback at all, and some cases washback does have an effect. So.
Okay. Well, 13 messages from our chat with the word thank you or thanks go to Alessia.
Okay.
And now the last speech for today. And it's, well, practically oriented one from Polina Davidova, an international communication specialist and university teacher. It will be very helpful for teachers. Well, it will to help them, I mean, to help teachers, to help their students to prepare to the international tests. We in Skyeng know that the request exam preparation is very, very popular, but many teachers are afraid to undertake responsibility and to make such a commitment. We definitely ignore some obstacles and don't know some important life hacks. Please, Polina, we teachers, I'm a teacher of Russian language, so yeah, I make mistakes as I wrote in the chat. Want to know more about helping our students to prepare exams, please.
Well, it's actually Elena, not Polina, but it's okay, no problem. If you want to call me Polina, go for it. And intercultural communication as well. So that is understandable mistakes, because in Russia we do not have this as a science, and we have it so new thing. And I hope my presence here as an intercultural communication specialist will help some of you to understand and to realize that this thing actually exists. Well, today I want to talk about my experience as an ESL teacher and my experience as in helping students to prepare to the international exams. And can I have the next slide, please? So the thing that I actually faced and that I realized is the main problem is that some students that come to this idea to pass some exam, they prepare and they go through the whole process of preparation, but they never go and pass it. So at the very final point, they decide, no, I just don't want to go there. So I recommend you as teachers to ask your students why they doing this. Why do they want to prepare to the exams, and why do they want to pass it? So if you hear something like on the right, you have three main answers. So if you hear the first one, that's actually a very bad marker. If a person want to pass the exam just in case to check the level, that basically means that this person may decide that, no, I just don't want to do this. And here we actually go to the point that Alessia covered so nicely, and they just want to improve and they want some idea of getting better or some certificate. Yes, I know English and that's just for myself. At some point they decide that it's maybe expensive, or it may be not worth, maybe it doesn't worth their time that they need to invest in this preparation, because as other colleagues mentioned, it is a very long process and you need to go through it. And even if you have an advanced level of English, you still have to invest time in preparing to the exact format, because knowing English or any other language, it doesn't mean that you can actually meet the format and that you'll have a high score. So if you as a teacher hear the second or the third answer, so please do it, go for it, help your students to prepare. They will do this, because if they really want to enter this or that university, so they need to have, for example, 107 in TOEFL, and they'll do it no matter what, because they want to go to the university or getting a job. That also works. Why not? You want a job, go and pass it. So can I have the next slide, please? Thank you. So these are 3 main life hacks that I tell my students. So the first thing may be really controversial, but I teach them to lie. That is the first and the main thing that I teach them. I teach them to lie. So actually, it's really nice if you can provide your opinion and base your answer on your real experience. But many students freeze at the point when they don't know something. So for example, the ecology, that is a really hype topic all over the world and reasonably hype topic. It may not be really important for the exact person. Well, it's hard to imagine such kind of thing, but anyway, it may be some other topic about pets if we talk about lower level exams or something like that. And the person may just not have these ideas in his or her head. So this freezes people all the time, and that worked with me. And I had these situations when I passed my exams and, well, lie. That is the point. And it doesn't matter. Actually, people are not testing your experience in some in different spheres of life. They are testing your knowing of English. They're testing your language level. It is the main, I guess, here, and the most important. So the next one is filling the time. It works for several categories. The first one, that is like the most logical here, it works for the speaking part of exam. You need to talk for the exact time. So if you need to talk for 15 seconds, you need to understand what is 50 seconds. If you think that, okay, 50 seconds, maybe 3 sentences. It may work, it may not work. The sentence can be long, the sentence can be short. And the feeling of the time is the other really important thing, because many students believe, okay, I have plenty of time, I'll tell the story of my childhood and only then pass to the actual question. No, doesn't work. You need to understand the time, you need to understand in what frames you are. And actually this thing works only if you set the timer and only if you practice a lot of times and practice. I'm not bringing any new things here, but anyway. The third and the last for this slide thing is lifesaver phrases. And I'm here talking about some unique things that work for a specific student. So that is a thing that you need to write with your teacher or individually if you are preparing on your own. So it is some phrases or words that you anyway use. So those are some your specific phrase parasites or word parasites that you would anyway put in your speech. You need to understand where and how you can use them for them to work on you, not against. And this can be something like out of my experience or some other thing that would be your filler. And these phrases should sound natural. That is the most important thing, and that is the crucial thing here. So when you use them many times, that may sound unnatural, or you can sound like a parrot here, or like like a person who prepared for too long to the exam. Use lifesaver phrases, try to note them down when you talk in English, and maybe then implement them somehow in your speech. That will help you, that will help your speech sound good. So can I have the last one, please? Thank you. And that is the pretty similar to the last point that I mentioned, and that works for the written part of the exam. And I truly believe that it is the most important, because during the exam we have a lot of stress at the very moment when we pass it. So it is really stressful thing. And if you have a template, your individual one, that you created for yourself, by yourself, maybe with some help, but it is yours one. You can actually have the writing test, the writing task be prepared really well before. So it may be not really clear that what I'm talking here about. It's not the one that you can find in just putting to the, like, just Googling TOEFL writing templates. No, it's not that thing. It's not the part where you have some linking words and this main structure of an essay. No, this is the exact phrases and exact sentences where you know each word, where you know how to put commas and all the punctuation signs. You know how to work with this, and you know it for many months already, or many weeks. So basically the good idea is to prepare the argument that would work for any topic you have. It is possible, it's hard to find, but it is possible to. Maybe it is some story of your life that actually is multi-site story, so you can go there and take many different parts from it, so it would be a good example for many different topics. Or you can go with some resource or some nice person who, maybe some scientists who talk about different things, so it would work for you. So it is something that you know for many times, and that is something that you do, and I'm sorry, that is something that you prepare for pretty long time, and so you have it in automatic level of your conscious and subconscious. So I hope the last part was also clear. And to sum up, I would say that preparation, yes, as we all know, is the best thing to do, but it should be individually focused preparation, not just some materials that you do and try and prepare by them, but you should think of yourself and how you can use your experience and your best parts in passing the exam. So I would be happy answering some questions if people have them. So.
Thank you, Yelena. I'm terribly sorry. I know that my error was absolutely unacceptable, so sorry for that. But I have a question for you from our participants. This one, how to teach the student to be independent to success at the test?
Thank you for the question. Independent to success. I'm not sure if I understand this way of putting it. Okay. No, I'm not sure that if I understand the question. I'm sorry.
Well, okay. Probably it might mean something like we need to develop learners' autonomy and to make them more independent learners than they are. So what can we do for them to be independent learners while preparing them for the test? Well, probably my interpretation is bad.
Okay, I'll try to answer. I'm not sure. I'm still not sure that I will answer the one that the person asked, but I'll try. So I believe that that works only if you make an individual course. So you have this course based on the needs of the exact person. And that's how you can work with this. So if the person understands that, okay, I cannot just follow some rules and do some standard exercises, I can make this process focused on my needs and working for me. So then I can improve it and I can make it work on me by myself, not by my teacher. So I'm not sure if it is the answer.
I'm not sure it was my interpretation was okay. Was it a question? That's interesting. But we have one more. How can I prove my test preparation proficiency?
By passing the test. So yeah, I guess it is the one. You can do your job. You can prepare. I'm not sure if I can give you some unique things, and I believe that everything that I told here is actually pretty known by everyone who is in this Zoom conference and almost everyone who is watching us today. So you can prove that you are proficient by having some good results of your students, by having good results of yours, and that will prove that you're good, that you're proficient. That's it. Is there any other way to prove it?
I don't know. So no pre-tests, just try and we'll see.
It's like a preparation part. So for me, proving something, it is about pass any exam. If we talk about this, if you want to make some trial versions, some mock ones, do it. But it's a preparation part. So proving is only about passing it. It's like how we teach kids to swim in Russia. So we just put them there and they swim. That's the only way to do this, no?
Oh, well, okay. Okay. That's an interesting approach. Maybe our dear speakers have questions too. Yelena.
Okay.
Okay. So thank you very much. Now, I think we have to finalize our contest, yes? Yeah, I don't see, yeah, the contest. So let me see the winners. Okay, it's time to take stock of the contest. And 3 months of premium subscription from my book go to, let me see, the winners. So the winners are, first, Olga Rimarenko. Congratulations. Yelena Aksenko. I'm sorry, I might be wrong with emphasis. And Yelena Shulgina. 3 winners are, yes, Olga Rimarenko, Yelena Aksenko, и Yelena Shulgina. And the winner, we have one more winner. Short announcement of the same price, 3 months premium subscription from my book. For the best comment in Instagram goes to the winner with the nickname GJUKO/994, Marina Topolyan. Our congratulations to Marina. Okay, the organizing committee of the panel discussion will contact the winners to clarify all the information, and we hope that the email, your email, was typed correctly, and it won't be any problems with contacting you. We also thank our partners for providing, next slide. Yes, we also thank our partners for providing information, support, and gifts for our participants. You can see a lot of our friends and partners here on the slide. And well, dear participants, thank you for today's event. The title was Everything You Want to Know About International Exam, TOEFL and TOEIC, Benefits, Issues, Preparation. I want to say that the recording of the event and certificates will be sent to you by the email in a week. And also, we will send the almanac with answers to the questions we didn't take into consideration today. If you have any questions, please write to skyteachconference@skyeng.ru. Please type the email address in our chat in the YouTube chat. And yes, if you're a native English speaker or you use English in your everyday life or live abroad, you're welcome to join us in project Skyeng Talks. Well, all the best. Good luck. Thank you very much for today's very, very productive and I'm sure very interesting for many of us, for all of us, speeches and new ideas we shared together. Okay. Ta-da.
Everyone, I think that's the end, right?
Yeah, this is
Yes.
the end, beautiful friend.
Bye.
Like Jim Morrison used to sing. Okay, goodbye.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.